to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. A bombing rocks Istanbul. Fox's Jessica Gallagher, live in our Middle East Bureau.
Dave, a suicide bomber with links to Syria, detonated a bomb in Istanbul's popular Sultan Ahmet district. Witnesses say the blast at a landmark near the historic Blue Mosque could be heard in several neighborhoods. President Tayyip Erdogan says both Turks and foreigners are among the dead. ISIS is being blamed on dual suicide bombings in Ankara in October that killed more than 100. Dave?
Jessica, a house exploded last night in Ohio. It shook their whole neighborhood in Northfield Center Township. People ran over.
Started screaming to ask if anybody was in there, and nobody responded. We couldn't get upstairs because that was engulfed in flames.
A couple and their 2 children were inside and died. The only survivor, the family dog. Firefighters haven't figured out the cause. The gas company says it does not believe a leak is to blame. A Republican running for president won't be debating Thursday night. Fox's Rachel Sutherland, live in Washington.
There will be 7 Republican presidential candidates on stage during Fox Business Channel's primetime debate in South Carolina. They were chosen based on recent polls. Senator Rand Paul didn't qualify, so he's boycotting the earlier undercard debate, telling CNN.
So I think it's a mistake to try to exclude me from the national debate. And we're going to make sure the voters know that.
Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Ben Carson, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, and John Kasich made the cut for the main debate. Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, and Carly Fiorina will square off during the undercard debate. Dave?
Rachel, Hillary Clinton says the Donald Trump running for president isn't the one she knew.
He was supportive of Democrats. He was supportive of a lot of the causes that I cared about.
Clinton at a Democratic forum last night in Iowa, where she also joined her rivals opposing the Obama administration raids to deport illegal Central American immigrants refusing deportation orders. They're cheering in Alabama after the Tide rolled, beating Clemson 45-40 to win the college football championship. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
At GoDaddy, a domain name is the beginning of something awesome. Use it to create a website to promote your business. Open an online store to sell your products. Start a blog. Build your brand. You can even connect your domain to your LinkedIn or Facebook page. And GoDaddy customer support is always ready to help. What will you do with your domain name? Get a .com domain name for only $2.99 for the first year. Right now at GoDaddy.com. 2-year purchase required. Second year is $14.99.
Do you need to replace your tired old blinds? What if you could wave a magic wand and make them absolutely perfect? Well, you can't. But you can go to Blinds.com, the world's #1 online blind store. There's a huge selection, helpful videos, even a free design consultation. And every week they'll make brand new offers appear right before your eyes. So visit Blinds.com and make upgrading to new beautiful blinds seem almost magical. Go to Blinds.com or call 888-4BLINDS. That's 888-4-BLINDS. Call or go to Blinds.com today.
Immigration officials continue to insist they are not carrying out raids in New Jersey, similar to ones in other parts of the country to deport illegals. However, they do say they're conducting normal business, trying to explain why agents have busted into a number of homes in the Freehold area. We still have few details about the death of little Brendan Crieto. His body found in a marshy area near the Cooper River at Haddon Township, but his 22-year-old father has been charged with the boy's murder this morning. He reported Brendan missing from his home last October. If voters give the green light to building 2 North Jersey casinos, the company that win the licenses would have to invest a minimum of $1 billion and follow a timeline to build them or risk losing the license.
That will address the ability to make this move quickly after, if it's approved by the voters in November.
Flanked by Senate President Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Prieto, Governor Christie announcing the deal. You will be asked to vote on dedicating every penny of the state's gas taxes to road and bridge repair. Current law allows a portion of that money to be siphoned off for other uses. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
Skies will become partly sunny and we pick up a brisk wind up to about 25 miles an hour today, and then some rain and snow showers will arrive by mid to late afternoon. High temperatures today lower to mid 40s, only in the 30s in far North Jersey. Snow showers continue through about midnight, and if it really comes down, we could see a coating of snow accumulation on cold surfaces overnight. Speaking of cold, lows in the lower 20s, wind chills in the teens at best tonight. Tomorrow, sunny, windy, and very cold. Highs in the lower 30s, wind chills in the teens all day. I'm meteorologist Dan Zarrow.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation.
Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 1450.
Welcome back. It's 5 minutes past the hour. It is my pleasure to welcome back the official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program as we enter a new year. Chuck and I enter year 26 of his regular weekly program, which is all about your financial matters. Chuck Malamut is the official financial advisor, the exclusive financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program. You can reach Chuck and his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office at 609-383-2010. The following program segment is presented by Chuck from Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this program are those of Chuck, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided today nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, to say there's a lot going on. Oh, my gosh. This is incredible. What a start to the new year.
Good morning, Harry. It's amazing. You look great for
an hour and a half sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed.
Hey, one thing you got to give me, whether people like me or dislike me, I always show up.
You do. There's no doubt about it. So,
and a lot is happening. Hey, Chuck. Before we get to the market update, the week that was, China, U.S. labor markets, corporate earnings, and anything else that you're going to bring on your program today. Any comment about Atlantic City?
I am, Harry, and I am not one to certainly wake up in the morning and hide my head under the pillow and say these are really bad dreams, and I don't want to face reality. But unfortunately, I don't care what side of the table you're on. But if you look at it, I mean, I guess from my perspective, and I guess Harry, and I think we think the same here. Atlantic City got kicked in the teeth, multiple times yesterday, and I think it was pretty disingenuous for our state senator to say that he was taken off guard and completely surprised at the 11th hour as to the state takeover of Atlantic City. I think when you kind of read between the lines, I can't imagine that was really unfolded like that.
You can't believe it because it didn't unfold like that. He told people several weeks ago. What I think is really bad, I haven't had a chance to speak to Mayor Guardian yet, but just imagine finding out about something like this and just being completely blindsided by it, especially when he's done everything that the state has asked, and the state has a financial monitor in there. Really good man, by the way. I know him. Ed Sasdelli, a former business administrator for Hamilton Township and elsewhere. He's there all the time. Everything that they have done has been approved by the state. Now the state's saying, hey, Atlantic City doesn't work. I mean, imagine that senator having the audacity to say Atlantic City doesn't work, and yet the state's been running it, in essence, at least overseeing it, but now they say that we have to take it over.
All right, let's put this in reality for a second, okay? And I think, Harry, you've always known me to be someone that is not afraid to voice their opinion, whether it's right, wrong, or different. Yeah. In what we do every day, we spend a considerable amount of time searching, reviewing, evaluating, and ultimately making decisions with respect to how to effectively invest our clients' portfolios. And a portion of what we do is we buy municipal bonds. And for the state of New Jersey to say that they have a solution that can solve Atlantic City, understanding the fiscally where the state of New Jersey stands with respect to just evaluating bond inventory, you shake your head and say, you have to be kidding me. There's absolutely no way that they're going to be able to basically run the city of Atlantic City effectively from afar. It just doesn't happen. And when I look, for instance, Harry, perfect case in point, New Jersey State Transportation Trust Fund. allegedly a single A piece of paper. If a single A piece of, and if you line them all up, state of New Jersey versus state of New York versus state of Oregon, Nevada, whatever, and you search by yield, and you have the same quality with respect to the bonds, all single A or A plus or A minus, how come the state of New Jersey has the highest yielding pieces?
Well, how come? Isn't it a byproduct of performance?
It's a byproduct performance, a byproduct of your financial stability.
Yeah,
a byproduct of your ability to pay not only previously. Well, obviously you paid previously, but pay in the future.
Yes.
And I know that I try very desperately not to get political with our 45, 50 minutes together. That's not why we're here. I mean, you spend a great majority of your show, and you don't need me to kind of pile on, but. When I woke up this morning, kind of put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, I'm saying to myself, Atlantic City and the local community has enough on their plate, and what they were handed yesterday is basically I can't describe it because I would probably use profanity, Harry, but it certainly is not fair to the hardworking citizens of the city and the state. Or the city and the county, we'll call it. How's that sound?
It sounds good and terrible at the same time. But here's the thing that's amazing to me. The state's been in there the whole time. And now without just blindside the mayor, blindside city council, that you have this draft bill for, quote unquote, the Atlantic City takeover. They're calling it Municipal Stability and Recovery Act or some goofiness. And then it says we're not going to say what city it is, but it's the entity city is the one where casino gaming is legal. I mean, so good. It's like hey, Chuck Malamut, great at what he does. I give your title. I don't say your name, but I describe everything about you. And then, but I'm not going to say your name. And then when it can only be you by law. This act does say Atlantic City because whenever something by matter of law, when something could only be one thing or one person, you have said the name.
I think Marty Small said it right this morning. When you cut your ratables in half, it's very, very hard to react very quickly to be able to overcome that. So, and I think, Harry, you might have said it that I'm not sure exactly who said it this morning, but the state would come in and pay off what is due to Borgata?
I said that.
Okay.
But I didn't confirm that in my report yesterday. I'm not as comfortable with that as everything else that I have broken in this area, but I have been told by multiple Trenton sources that they would be paying Borgata.
So where's the money coming from?
Well, it's coming from us.
Okay.
The state.
Which ultimately is you and me.
Yes.
And everybody else. Okay.
Yes. Exactly.
All right. Well.
So it is. I just think it's amazing where the problem gets to masquerade as the solution. That always just tickles me.
Yeah, and I think, look, a lot has been accomplished under Mayor Guardian's leadership. And
look at the disrespect they showed him. This guy's been an honest broker at the table. He gets blindsided last night by a HarryHurley.com, WPG1450.com. Harry Hurley breaking news story. He's got to hear that the state wants to take Atlantic City over from me with as honest as he has been with all them. I think it's terrible.
No, he has certainly been a great leader, a wonderful proponent of the city. I mean, he obviously works extremely hard at what he does, and I just find it remarkable that they would basically undercut him. And
by the way, for our listeners, if we need to talk to him sooner, we will. But the mayor will be in studio with me on Tuesday night, special time, because it's the only time this month we can do it. 7 o'clock, Tuesday, January 19th. Ask the mayor, Don Guardian. Right before that, in the 6 o'clock hour, it's a perfect doubleheader because this senator has been incredibly, unambiguously, and unconditionally supportive of Atlantic City and Atlantic County, and he does oversee a part of Atlantic County. The senator from the 1st District, Senator Jeff Andrew, asked the senator in the 6 o'clock hour. And then we have Congressman Lobiondo in studio for the 5 o'clock hour on Friday, January 22nd, which is Noah's 8th birthday, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck, if you want to shift gears.
Harry, let's shift gears. And it's certainly
it's eventful.
Yeah, I mean, when we walked out of here last week, I find it remarkable the days that we lived through for the remainder of the week, and if you kind of put it into perspective, and
it was the worst 4 days in the history of the markets.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it,
to start a year.
Yeah, the S&P going into yesterday, and I think let me quantify that. Yesterday on to itself, Harry, while volatility seems to be relatively muted, and if you look at yesterday, I would tell you that the looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average probably made, I'm going to say, about 5 to 6 changes during the day, moving from positive to negative. And investors get very, very anxious with that. And as we finished up the day, the Dow was up about 50. The S&P was marginal to flat, we'll call it, and the NASDAQ was slightly down. But putting that aside, last week the S&P was off about almost 6%. The other indices, the S&P or the NASDAQ was even worse. The concerns, I mean, they're advertised, they're out there, and if you look, the growth in China is obviously slowing. The government, putting in the stopgap measures to halt trading once you go down 7%, that lasted 2 days and that was lifted. You don't operate a market, Harry, for 20 minutes and then shut down. I mean, because that just creates, sort of those vibrations and that negative bias, not only in their closed marketplace, because you think about it, that market is, and we've talked about this, I think, before, that market is only available for the most part, Chinese retail investors. And, their market into itself is about 25 years in duration. So in perspective, you look at our markets over 200 years in existence for the most part, they have a lot of learning to do. They got a lot of catch up. And what happens is you don't experiment on the fly and then expect, the markets to react or overreact accordingly. And then all of a sudden it creates that, and I don't want to use the word hysteria because that's not the right word, but concern. It grips all these other marketplaces, and it kind of, you get that worldwide contagion. So the question is, and we always think back, it wasn't too terribly long ago that we were back in August,
right?
Where we had problems in China. It rolled over to Europe. It rolled over to the U.S. And August the 24th was just an awful day where you had those gap down open orders where stocks were trading down 20-25% and then came back very, very quickly. We don't seem to think, that's where we are right now. If you look at from where you were from the highs that we put in back in the spring, we're off over 10%. And, bear markets happen very, very quickly. Corrections sort of catch you by surprise. And the fact of the matter is that we came right out of the holiday. It was pretty quiet, fairly muted as we got to the beginning of January. And then you get sort of, you walk in, you got hit over the head with a sledgehammer. And it wasn't, I don't think anyone really saw this coming. But you had a number of, and what's the word we always use? Geopolitical.
Yes.
And there were a number of geopolitical events that converged on the markets all at once.
I mean, you had North Korea light off a hydrogen bomb.
You had
crazy stuff.
You have a dispute in the Middle East.
Yep.
And then you have China. So now what happens is, think about this. Earnings started last night. Alcoa is always the first to report, and they did report. They reported a slight miss on the top line. The revenue that we always talk about. And they got to their bottom line number. Now, that company is a little unique in as much, Harry, that recently they announced they're going to split that company into two pieces. But, the market reacted well initially to the news. That stock was up after hours in the beginning of the after-hour session and then, sort of tailed off and was flat to slightly down. But the point I'm trying to make is that as all this is going on, companies cannot make announcements. They are, as you enter into earnings seasons, you have what is referred to as a quiet period. So all these companies are kind of sitting to the sidelines because they can't say anything because they're ready to come with earnings. So I think what we really have to concentrate here on is, what are fourth quarter earnings going to be? They've been downgraded again. This is probably a second quarter in a row where we're going to have a contraction in earnings. And ultimately, what will these companies report, forecasting in the future where they think they're going to go with earnings? I think that's really going to hopefully drive the markets, and that is what should drive the markets.
Strong opening segment. He is Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor for the past 25, now going on 26 years. Here is our official and exclusive financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program. To reach Chuck and his team, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office, 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. And you will learn, as I've learned decades and more ago, how Chuck has perfected his concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation. Let me make a brief comment about Mayor Don Guardian, who I have been chatting with several times over the past 20 minutes while doing the show live with Chuck. I'll let you know a little bit about what happens behind the scenes. Mayor Guardian is making his way to Trenton because he's going to go make sense of all this because he was completely blindsided. Now, I know that's the truth when Mayor Don Guardian says it. Jim Whalen said he was blindsided by it. He was not. He knew about it. He's a part of it. They're just going to let him vote no. Mayor Don Guardian is shocked about this. If we need to talk with him before we do the Ask the Mayor program, we will bring him on later this week, and I think we will. And what he's going to try to find out is basically what we talked about with Councilman Small, insofar as the city's done everything the state has asked, with one exception. Marty said 90% of the time. They've done everything the state has wanted, with the exception of selling the MUA, which they're right not to do that. That is an asset that would have been blown in 5 years. Instead of it being like an annuity, it'd be like winning on Wednesday, Chuck. Okay? $1.4 billion. It would literally, it's a number that you cannot laugh at. Keeping the MUA is in the city of Atlantic City's best interests. It was right for them to deny the state's encroachment where they wanted them to either take it over or to sell it or to lease it to somebody for 50 years. So that's the only thing the city didn't do that the state had asked for. Mayor Guardian, as I've just confirmed to you, is making his way to Trenton today, and he told me that the mayor and city council are arm in arm on this issue together, and they obviously oppose it. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Chuck Malamut and a whole lot more straight ahead. Oh, the legendary football coach, I know Chuck knows this guy, Howard Schnellenberger, four-time national champion, 3 times under Bear Bryant as his offensive coordinator. So he had to be so excited at around 12:30 last night. What a game. This is a game I never get to watch unless, as happened yesterday, I was up working. It was phenomenal. It was like Ali and Frazier. One would score and the other would have a knockout punch, and the other would come in, and it was the successful Alabama onside kick that won them the national championship. I can't prove it, but Clemson was going to be the national champion if that did not succeed. Brief time out. Don't go away. Hurley in the Morning with Chuck Malamut continues.
The 1450 Club is overstocked with your chance to win great prizes. Simply visit WPG1450.com for your chance to win a Nikon digital camera, a winter car emergency kit, a virtual reality headset, a GPS pet tracker, or gift cards to the Home Depot, Bass Pro Shops, and Target. Not a member? Join now for a chance to win. It's the 1450 Club at WPG1450.com.
This is Harry Hurley for All Season Solar, our official and exclusive solar energy provider to the Hurley in the Morning program. They design and they install the most attractive, efficient, state-of-the-art solar photovoltaic systems from the world's leading manufacturers. What I love about dealing with All Season Solar, they're your single point of contact. They do the system design, engineering, your building permits, installation, and the ultimate glorious utility connection day. They take care of everything under the sun so that you can sit back and reap the savings. Call Frank Neal today, 609-317-5491. That's Frank Neal, All Season Solar, 609-317-5491. There's never been a better time to go solar. The benefits are there. New Jersey leads the East Coast and second largest in the entire United States in terms of solar energy panel installation. No deposits, no hidden fees, no out-of-pocket costs. All Season Solar. Tell them Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Earnings vary based on your effort. Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses right here in Atlantic City? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll learn our simple 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Than Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Atlantic City area who want to learn how to make money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Atlantic City is a perfect market for my system, and this week, I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where you will learn how to make money flipping homes and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, call 1-800-359-5052. Seating is extremely limited. Call right now because this free ticket offer expires this Friday. That's 1-800-359-5052. That's 1-800-359-5052.
For more than 20 years, the D'Amato Law Firm has served as the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program. Led by certified civil trial attorney Paul D'Amato, the D'Amato Law Firm focuses their practice in representing those who have been seriously injured in construction, products liability, and motor vehicle collisions. The D'Amato Law Firm expertly handles cases throughout the country, but their primary focus is on representing victims injured right here at home in southern New Jersey. They've earned a reputation for excellence. From direct personal experience, I can readily confirm that the D'Amato Law Firm's overall competence, attention to detail, follow-up systems are outstanding, and they truly shine during your moment of truth before judge and jury. The D'Amato Law Firm is centrally located in Atlantic County at 2900 Fire Road, Suite 200. That's the second floor in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. That's the corner of Fire Road and the Black Horse Pike. For all of your personal injury legal needs, turn with confidence to the region's leader in the field of personal injury. They're the D'Amato Law Firm. Call 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. And please tell the D'Amato Law Firm that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Hurley, Beck, Hannity, and me. It's Mark Levin, weeknights from 6 to 9 on WPG Talk Radio, 1450.
We're back. Chuck Malamut is here, your official financial advisor, my official financial advisor, and the official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program, also to the Hurley in the Morning charity. And you can reach Chuck at his office. The Malamut Group is at Morgan Stanley at the Northfield office, 609-383-2010. So I think that was the week that was, and sort of a market update, and also a splattering of China as well. Do we want to talk about now?
Well, let's kind of take. We didn't quite. Yeah. We kind of looked at it. As a brief overview, but let's kind of get into it here for a second. So it's pretty obvious, Harry, that China does have some fundamental issues. But, what is happening there as we got to the break, a lot of it is basically self-inflicted. So you have, a slowing economy, a large amount of debt, capital outflows, and ultimately, tighter monetary policy here in the U.S., are all causing a fair amount of angst for China. But we seem to believe that the financial turmoil has been brought about by, again, a lot of this confusion with respect to policy and a lack of transparency. And you think about it, as I mentioned to you earlier this morning, 25 years in the making, and a country that has gone, that is now allegedly a democracy.
Right.
I don't quite buy into that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Har.
you go from communism to socialism to democracy in a relatively short period of time with the same leadership. I don't know. Do you go to college to learn that?
Step 1, step 2 accomplished to an extent. Step 3 an illusion, not real. By the way, are we in agreement, Chuck, that both you, the expert, and me, the layperson, that we are officially in an environment where the Fed will not raise interest rates?
The Fed has got their hands tied behind their back.
Would they do something amazing and reverse the one they did?
Well, there's been discussion of that, and I think that might be a little early in the game for that to happen. But
I agree.
Look, again, a lot of what the Fed does is data dependent, and while the job number was good for the last month, there hasn't been a lot of growth in wages, and the jobs that have been created are more entry-level service type positions. So, you have to take that 5% employment or unemployment rate and really kind of understand. I mean, and I think you've been very, very vocal, and we've chatted about it for, it seems like, years now, as to that number being pretty disingenuous at best, and really, what is that number? But let's go back to China here for a second, because as you know, the markets for the last week connected with what was happening with China, and they moved accordingly. Now, I think yesterday was pretty interesting, Harry, because the Shanghai, the retail Chinese market that I mentioned to before, that is closed for investors outside of China, had a pretty rough road. Again, it was down like 6%. That did not necessarily move over to the rest of the world. And as I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, the U.S. market was relatively flat for the most part yesterday. So if we look at our economy here in the U.S., I think for the most part, what is happening in China, should not have a major impact here. Our exports this past year, 2015, to China were about $118 billion. That represented less than 1% of our U.S. GDP. So we think there's virtually no chance at this point in time, Harry, that the U.S. could import a recession from China. If anything, when you look at it, if you look at it, cheaper Chinese goods could represent some sort of form of economic stimulus here to us.
So what about contagion, though?
We don't seem to think that that's going to happen here. And the fact that when you take last week and look at the components as to what happened, a lot of it was, again, created because of the policies that were put in place. I mean, Harry, how do you put a 7% stop on the market, shut down, basically 2 days of the week, and then like the next day you lift it? Oh, we made a mistake. We're not going to do that now. You float. They're trying desperately to float their currency to get it to a level that is sustainable. Obviously, it's been devalued again, so you have to really. Now, granted, it's not like you're talking about a very, very small country. It's obviously huge in size and capacity, and it is the number 2 within the world. So you can't take what they're doing lightly, but you got to obviously kind of look at it and say, is this for real?
Yeah. Brief time out. We're going to come right back. Chuck Malamut continues. We have the legendary college football coach, also NFL coordinator under Don Shula. You talk about pedigree. Coach Howard Schnellenberger cut his teeth under Bear Bryant, where Coach Schnellenberger won 4 national championships. He was the offensive coordinator for the 1972 Miami Dolphins, the only undefeated team in NFL history. And he's going to be with us the last 10 minutes of this hour. We're brought to you this morning also by the official country club, the exclusive country club to the Hurley in the Morning program, Harbor Pines Golf Club, located at 500 St. Andrews Boulevard in Egg Harbor Township, owned by the legendary Gerwicks family. You'll thoroughly enjoy working with General Manager Alan Greenman, Sales and Marketing Director Debbie Stevenson, and their fine team. The golf course itself is wonderful because it's upscale, yet Harbor Pines Golf Club is an attractive and available public golf course. It will satisfy the diverse tastes of the most discriminating golfer. 5 sets of tees, large tee boxes, 17 acres of breathtaking water, which is so nice to look at. Also, it challenges your game, as do the distinctive and memorable bunkers that are strategically placed to also challenge your game. They also have excellent practice facilities. Morning, midday, twilight pricing in terms of what time of the day you'd like to play that works best for you. Full, limited, twilight, and associate level golf memberships are also available. Weddings, banquets, special events, and golf outings are outstanding. And this is worth a footnote, and actually a highlight. Debbie Stevenson is the only certified golf planner in all of southern New Jersey. So you have that pedigree in terms of helping you to accomplish all of your goals for your charity event or whatever event that you are staging at the Harbor Pines Golf Club. They have a great team of sales, golf operations, catering, and food and beverage professionals to help you meet all of your planning needs and goals. I'm also pleased to announce that Harbor Pines Golf Club is now the official home of the 9th Annual Hurley in the Morning Golf Open set for Friday, June 17th, 2016. When you schedule your next tee time golf outing, wedding, banquet, or special event of any kind at Harbor Pines Golf Club, tell Al and Debbie and their great team that I sent you Hurley in the Morning. You can book a tee time right now at harborpines.com or call 609-927-0006. Tee times and rate information located right on their website at harborpines.com. Back with Chuck in 1 minute.
Immigration officials continue to insist they are not carrying out raids in New Jersey, similar to ones in other parts of the country to deport illegals. However, they do say they're conducting normal business, trying to explain why agents have busted into a number of homes in the Freehold area. We still have few details about the death of little Brendan Crieto. His body found in a marshy area near the Cooper River at Haddon Township, but his 22-year-old father has been charged with the boy's murder this morning. He reported Brendan missing from his home last October. If voters give the green light to building 2 North Jersey casinos, the company that win the licenses would have to invest a minimum of $1 billion and follow a timeline to build them or risk losing the license.
That will address the ability to make this move quickly after, if it's approved by the voters in November.
Flanked by Senate President Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Prieto, Governor Christie announcing the deal. You will be asked to vote on dedicating every penny of the state's gas taxes to road and bridge repair. Current law allows a portion of that money to be siphoned off for other uses. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
Skies will become partly sunny and we pick up a brisk wind up to about 25 miles an hour today, and then some rain and snow showers will arrive by mid to late afternoon. High temperatures today lower to mid 40s, only in the 30s in far North Jersey. Snow showers continue through about midnight, and if it really comes down, we could see a coating of snow accumulation on cold surfaces overnight. Speaking of cold, lows in the lower 20s, wind chills in the teens at best tonight. Tomorrow, sunny, windy, and very cold. Highs in the lower 30s, wind chills in the teens all day. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
Bring your kids to Kiddabaloo at Atlantic Christian School in Egg Harbor Township. It's face painting and moon bounces from 1 until 5 on Saturday, March 19th. Enjoy chubby penguin parties, build cupcakes by Jenny Cakes, magic by Chad Juros, frozen performance by Little Angels Princess Events, boardwalk photo booth, and more.
Hi, this is Lauren Taylor. You know me as Shelby from Disney Channel's Best Friends Whenever. Come join me Saturday, March 19th for Kiddabaloo at the Atlantic Christian School for a fun-filled day.
To purchase tickets, visit kiddabaloo.com today.
Your gut. It's your engine, your digestive core. Keep it running smoothly with the powerful digestive support of Ultimate Flora. It's the probiotic that works hard, with 30 billion live cultures to help restore your body's good natural flora. Feel lighter, more energized, and happier with the high-potency probiotic. Ultimate Flora by Renew Life. More power to your gut. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The South Jersey news and weather you need to start your day, and the opinions you love. This is Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 1450 and WPG1450.com.
Hey, thanks very much. Welcome back. 38 minutes past the hour. Just a quick programming note. Coming up after the 45 minutes past the hour break, so we have 7 minutes with Chuck. We have the legendary college coach, NFL coach as well, assistant coach and coordinator, Howard Schnellenberger, who was probably most well known from his time at the University of Miami right before Jimmy Johnson took over. But he also was the head coach at Oklahoma. He was also the head coach coming out of retirement for Florida International University, or Florida Atlantic University. And incredibly, after a couple of really obviously tough seasons because it was a program that had no, history at all, wound up winning the Fiesta Bowl over Alabama, and had a 10-1-1 season This guy can coach, let me put it that way. He also made a moment of truth decision when my former boss, Donald Trump, started up the USFL. Howard Schnellenberger left a very, very successful stint as a head coach to take on a team in the USFL. And, of course, we know Herschel Walker and some of the players that joined the USFL, we know how that experiment went. It didn't go very well. I think proving, Chuck, sometimes it's tough to compete against the big dogs. I mean, the NFL just is like a monopoly. There was no way, when you look at it in the rearview mirror, that the USFL had a shot. Seemed like a good idea.
It was a great idea on paper, but unfortunately, it just didn't materialize. But
so, in your last 5 minutes, Chuck, what do we got?
So, Harry, we chatted a little bit about the labor market as we got to the break, and I know that we kind of toss around numbers oftentimes, but when you look at the 292,000 jobs that were created, it was better than expected. And there were some upward revisions to the prior months. So that all bodes fairly well, for, our economy. Again, the 5% unemployment number, I'm not quite certain really what that is, Harry. But the average hourly earnings, while they did drop, at the last report, if you look year over year, they're up about 2.5%. So that's, all said and done, as you mentioned or asked me before, what do you think the Fed's going to do in the future? I mean, those stats that happened in the month of December, the strength of that report pretty much validates, and puts some fear aside as to what the Fed did, back in December by increasing, rates by, 25 basis points.
If you had a crystal ball, you wouldn't have done it at all. So I kept saying they don't really need to do this right now, and we really don't know what's happening. See, the one thing that's been very, very tough to deal with is this is the most unusual recovery from a recession, or in this case, a Great Recession in American history. And the fact that we don't really grow beyond 2% GDP doesn't, in my estimation, Chuck, put America on a footing to be able to do the things that we typically do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Harry, your point's very well taken. And if you take a look, for instance, as we just sort of teed it up a little bit about corporate earnings, as we get into reporting of the fourth quarter, overall, we think for the most part they're going to be relatively soft. We're expecting that the earnings for the S&P 500 companies are going to decline by roughly 5%, and that's going to mark the first time since the Great Recession that we had 3 consecutive quarters of contraction. So in the meantime, as we look into the future, analysts are predicting, Harry, that the first quarter results are looking at roughly a 1% growth level. So I think that if you use the word meager, I think that would probably pretty much put it into place. Now, with all that said and done, we still think there's obviously risks in the marketplace, but I think there's a lot of reason, Harry, for us to be somewhat optimistic here.
Good.
Equity markets, as we mentioned before, are still going to be dominated a little bit with respect to what's happening outside the U.S. And, we might remain somewhat bearish until such point in time that investors believe and they see that the policymakers are able to stabilize, all the economic and financial conditions. One day does not make a market. But as we were, getting started this morning, we're seeing that the futures look relatively bright as oil seems to be stabilizing, and the same thing holds true with respect to the Chinese currency. So, we think over the next several months, the confidence will be restored gradually. We will see some healthier economic, fundamentals. So if we're able to get some moderate growth, have low inflation, improve the labor market, and keep interest rates, leave them low, and they're able to increase the consumer spending levels. Like everybody says, the consumer's got to spend, they have to spend. They should eventually all act as some tailwinds for corporate earnings and then ultimately equity prices. And remember, historically speaking, the markets do relatively well as we ramp up into an election year.
We can stretch 2 minutes if you have it, Chuck. And let me throw something out. This is not to, to just paint a rosy scenario just to be, because I am eternally optimistic, and you are too. It's our nature. We're positive people, and we're not negative. But much like I can tie into what we're going to be doing next, the legendary coach Howard Schnellenberger, sometimes when you start out bad, you have a lot of the game left. We have almost the whole game. It's like, you're down 10-0 or something, in the first couple of minutes of a game, but you have almost 4 quarters to get better.
Look, I'm not to use a football analogy, but if you take a look at what happened this weekend, there was one game in particular that I remember where I think it was Cincinnati was down 15-0 and led by a rookie quarterback, basically, that brought them back. And again, it was a game that should have been won by them, but we won't talk about football because we don't have a lot of time. But,
right. But they should have won.
But you can talk about that on your next segment.
And Minnesota should have won. Minnesota had a kick less than an extra point.
Absolutely, they should have. Yeah, but hey, look, that's why they're called the playoffs, and only one team can advance out of a game.
Playoffs.
But
talking playoffs.
But I think
it's good Jim Mora.
It is good Jim Mora, Harry. But I think you better stick to your day job.
Okay, I'll go.
But as I mentioned before, and as I do like, what you just said about, 1 week does not make a market.
Yeah, they've got the whole year.
And, we have, there's a lot of positive things, but believe it or not, that are happening here. We just have to keep our eye on the ball. And, we cannot, as investors, waver, because once you do, and you throw in the towel, so to speak, you can't get that back.
Chuck, great to be with you. You've been listening to Chuck Malamut, and we will catch you next week.
Harry, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Great
Enjoy
job.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too, sir. Great job as always. Chuck is the leader of his group, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office, 609-383-2010 to reach Chuck and his team. And the program you've just listened to was presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member, SIPC. The legendary coach Howard Schnellenberger. His book is Passing the Torch, Building Winning Football Programs with a Dose of Swagger Along the Way. Coach is in the house next on Hurley in the Morning.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
If you have a chipped tooth, the good news is you can restore it. Dr. Bhavan Patel, prosthodontist at Seaview Dental Arts, tells us more.
Well, Robin, the most important thing is to find out what is the size of the chip. If the chip is very small, we can do a very conservative bonding. It usually takes one visit. If the chip is large, it might require a veneer or a crown. And if the fracture is all the way into the root, then the tooth has to be replaced with an implant or a theory unit.
Obviously, if there's an accident, we know what causes the chip, but there are other reasons as well, right?
Yes, and that's why once the chip tooth is corrected with an artificial filling, we need to know what caused the chip. And most likely, if there's a bite issues, then that has to be corrected so it doesn't chip within a week or 10 days.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bhavan Patel, and I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck, and I'm coming up at 10 this morning. Now, back to Harry Hurley on WPG, Talk Radio 1450.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure. We have him for the next 10 minutes. Really, when you talk about pedigree, one of the greatest coaches in history, Howard Schnellenberger, is with us. Perfect timing with last night's game. All of us on short sleep because I was up. I know the coach had to be up with his pedigree with Alabama. What a game. I'm sure he'll agree. It almost is like one of those fights where if one team had the ball one more time, they just were like throwing haymakers at each other. Incredible game. And I think the coach will agree the key to the game, this could have easily gone to Clemson. Clemson was good enough to win last night, but what a gutsy call. I didn't see it coming. Even the cameras were all confused. It's just one of those times there was just no reason to do it, which is probably why Coach Saban was so effective with it. And I guess he made that call. Could have been his assistant, but I guess, the coach gets the credit, gets the blame. But what a call to do the onside kick after scoring where there was a lot of time left. But what a brilliant, I think, and obviously when it goes well, it seems even more so. Coach, it's Harry. Welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm great. As you point out, what a wonderful game! It looks like it's just like it should be. The game gets better as it goes along.
Yeah, it's true. You got 1 versus 2, whatever it was, 17 wins and 1 loss between them. One was 14-0, one was 13-1. So you got all those wins and only 1 loss between them. And I think that the system with this playoff of having 4 teams got it right. I mean, the best 2 teams played, and the best team won. And I'm sure you agree with that. Alabama, that's quite – what do you think about the 4th championship for Coach Saban? That puts him in really rarefied company.
Well, it does. It puts, in fact, he and Brian are the only ones close to that, and it puts him in a position. Puts him in a position to within 1 more year to be called, be known as the greatest coach that they ever had at the University of Alabama.
Hard to believe. It's really hard to believe that he is literally that close. As we talk with the coach, we're going to be reviewing Passing the Torch, building winning football programs with a dose of swagger along the way. And you've been through a lot of this. You've with Bear Bryant, with Don Shula. What was it like? I mean, did you realize at the time, cutting your teeth with these guys, the greatness that you were surrounded by?
No, I didn't. I didn't until the time I needed it. That was when I took the job at the University of Miami, and I didn't know that it was so had fallen to such low depths, and they had voted to drop the thing to Division I AA. But when I got there, I had to call on something. So when I started thinking about 5 Hall of Famers as my mentors, I said, well, if there's anybody that can get this thing done down here in Miami, it has to be me. And not because it's me, it's because I was the guy that was in that situation for 25 years.
We have something in common. We both know Donald Trump. You know him from the USFL. Donald hired me to run one of his hotels on the hotel side.
I've never met anybody like you.
You have now. And listen, I never met anybody like you. Look at you. Look at you go with your incredible your career at University of Alabama under Bear Bryant. Your time. What was it like that year in 1972 with Don Shula and the Miami Dolphins and literally perfection? What was that like?
Well, we didn't know we were up to anything miraculous until we won the Super Bowl. But we were just living out the dream of Don Shula and the plan of Don Shula to get the best group of young men together, get the best organized practices together, lay it on the line day by day, game by game, and when we not so much after we got ahead of the Redskins, after we tackled that guy that got that deflected field goal.
It's truly an amazing season where just everything. I guess great teams, though, sometimes you feel like the great ones get the breaks that go along with it too. And that seemed like a year that just the Dolphins.
Where's Liz?
Yeah. Now, in terms of putting the book together, which I encourage all of our listeners, I mean, Coach has never done anything like this. This is the first time he's putting this together. And you're listening to Coach Howard Schnellenberger, legendary coach at both the collegiate and professional levels, passing the torch. What made you decide that you wanted to put this together?
Say it again.
You decided to write this book for the first time. What was the reason that you decided to do this now?
It was because people had been on my case for the longest time in the last part of my career, and I kept telling them I plan to write this book when the last chapter is written, and it didn't get the last chapter didn't get written until 2011, at which time I retired and stayed on at FAU as an ambassador at large. And that was a good time to write the book. But the purpose of writing the book was to let other coaches and fans and everybody know that you don't always have to be hired to a great football program like I was when I was hired to go into when I went into that great Oklahoma. When I went in there, it was the only time I ever went into a place where it should have been easy to win the national championship. But when you
I was going to say to you, I remember when you took over the University of Oklahoma, and it just goes to show you never know what you're in store for, because that really should have only ended one way, shouldn't it have?
Yeah, if anybody can coach a lick, ought to be able to coach in Oklahoma to a good football team, if not the national championship. But I didn't have I was operating under a different set of rules. I was operating under the set of rules that my mentors taught me, because every one of them built the program before they were caretakers. Nebraska was. Oklahoma was in, a state of being ready to go win a national championship. All you had to do was push the right buttons. So, So when you have been cut out to start something from scratch, or like we did at FAU, or turn Miami around or Louisville around, you've been taught by the best how to do that.
And you did do all that, all your stops, other than Oklahoma. I mean, amazing. And the one that should have been the easiest wound up being the toughest, and that just shows you that the more you think you can figure something out, the more confounding it can become. Here's an area that I found fascinating in your book, and that's when you came out of retirement in 1998. So some people miss it, and they come back, and then they do a season or maybe two, and then it's like, you know what? I really meant to retire the first time. I really have it out of my system now, and so I'm leaving now. But you came out of retirement in 1998 at age 64. You stayed until 2011.
No, and actually I've stayed till now.
That's true.
I've been at Florida Atlantic University here now for 17 years. That long, 7 years longer than any other place.
Yeah, and I meant coaching. But yes, you absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
But anyway, it's a great time in my life, and I look back on it, and I'm so glad I decided to write a book. I'm so glad I found Ron Smith, the editor of the Palm Beach of the Boca News, when I was coaching there, and to take a year and a half to write the book and get in there. Not what most coaches will put in there, a whole bunch of X's and O's. We got a lot of those. But we wanted to give them the things that you do outside of coaching the team. You got to coach a lot of other people. You got to have a lot of other dreams, and you got to lay out the plan and make it happen. And
you know what? I can't believe you were right before we got started. You said, 10 minutes. I knew how fast it was going to go because the national news is going to kick us out, Coach. But I know one thing, beyond all of this other stuff, people have to pick up Coach's book, Passing the Torch. You're going to love it. It has all these lessons that are, as the coach said, beyond football. And one other thing I know, Coach, you were a quarterback just whisperer. Namath, Stabler, Jim Kelly, Bernie Kosar, Testaverde, Burt Jones, Roman Gabriel, Bob Greasy, Earl Morrill. Next time we get the chance to chat, if you'll give me another opportunity, Coach, I want to talk about how did you locate all these quarterbacks? I mean, the great ones.
Well, a lot of them were there when I got there, thank God, like Roman Gabriel and Bob Greasy and Jim Kelly. But we did recruit the balance of them, and we took it up to Louisville, and we had some great quarterbacks up there, Browning, Nagel, and the new guy that's...
Coach, the news is kicking in. To be continued.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. At least 10 people are dead in Istanbul, Turkey, after a suicide bombing in an area popular with tourists, prompting warnings in Europe. Fox's Jessica Gallagher live in our Middle East Bureau.
Dave, Denmark is joining Germany in advising its citizens to avoid public places and crowds in Turkey until further notice. This after Germany's foreign minister telling reporters he cannot rule out that his countrymen are among the dead. Turkey believes most of the 10 who died are